What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Elektra. And now we pick up with Greg Rucka's run. Now remember, we had covered the first story arc that was written by Brian Michael Bendis. But after Bendis had wrote the first story arc, well, he left the title and you had Greg come in and say, you know what? Let me take over and let me do my thing. Now, when it comes to his first story arc, it's only 3 issues. It's issues number 7, 8, and 9. Now, with that being said, we also see an artist change as well mid-story. So the first 2 chapters are being drawn by Chuck Austin and then change over to a different artist. And honestly, I forgot the name of the other artist. I want to say it's Joe Bennett or Joe Burnett. Either way, we are now going to begin our coverage over Greg Rucka's run on Elektra with his 3-part story arc. And so getting into the first chapter for today's video, we actually pick up with an Interpol agent better known as Chris Olsen. And Chris is going to be really important for this story arc. Now, for Chris, we do see him arrive in Athens, the capital of Greece. Now, when he does arrive, he is being surrounded by a bunch of women, but we go to see him talk to the main one in charge of this group. Now, her name is Catamidas. Now, Catamidas is trying to get information out of Chris Olsen. Now, at first, we do learn that she's trying to contact somebody that could help her with a certain problem that had happened to her 10 years ago. Now, after a couple more sentences being said to one another, we do learn that Chris has information for Catamidas to contact Elektra because she needs the help of Elektra to pull off her revenge against a certain group of people. Now, for Chris, he tells her, if you want to contact Elektra and you want to pay her to be your top assassin to handle a certain problem for you, you have to use the papers. So here's the info of what you have to do to initiate the contact. After that, it's all up to you if she does accept your deal to work for you. And you then have Chris be escorted out of the island back to somewhere else where he came from. Now, we do learn that Chris is actually working for another agent in Interpol, and that will be a character known as Gene Valence. Now, Gene is also going to be very important, but also he's blackmailing Chris to work for the actual agency because apparently Chris did something in the past, and the problem is if word gets out what Chris had done in the past, Chris will be going away for a very long time. And so, unfortunately, Chris has no choice but to work for Gene. Now, for Gene, he wants all the information that Chris had gathered while being surrounded by a Catamidas group, where you do have Chris explain that she does have 8 guards around her. All women, no men at all. But also, he gave the information on how to contact Elektra. So now we know where Chris got the info from. But apparently for Gene, he wants Elektra, but we're not technically told why just yet. Now, the next few pages are really more of Elektra being contacted by Catamidas. Now, remember, Chris told her, if you want to reach Elektra, you're going to have to use the paper. So you have Catamidas being able to put out an ad for Elektra to see. And once she does see the ad, you have Elektra respond back with another ad. Now, once you have Catamidas see that ad, you then have Catamidas be able to access a secure website and use the password that Elektra had given her. And so once you have the 2 characters being able to begin to talk to one another on this secure website, you have Elektra now know how much Catamidas is planning to pay her to accomplish some kind of contract. Now you have Elektra tell her, hey, you need to pay me the first half and then the rest after I complete the contract. But also let's meet up here at this location to talk out about what the contract is all about. Now, Interpol was also able to kind of listen in on the conversations that Catametus and also Elektra had on the phone about where they're going to meet up at and how much money they're going to pay, but also how many people she has to kill. We kind of learned that it's going to be 4 people. Now, with that being said, you then have Jean tell Chris that he has to go back to Athens, to go back to Catametus Island, to kind of be there when Elektra arrives. And when she does arrive, Chris has to inform Jean when she does arrive. Now, for Chris, he does not want to go because one, it's Elektra. She will be able to know when somebody is watching her in a matter of seconds, but also she's very deadly. So once she knows you're there, you're dead, and that will be it. But for Chris, he has no choice because, like I said earlier, Jean is blackmailing Chris. He reminds Chris, like, hey, listen, if you don't work for us, I'm going to have to charge you for manslaughter. And apparently 12 counts of manslaughter. And so Chris has no choice but to go ahead and go back to the island. Now, the ending of this chapter, we do see Elektra head over to Catametus Island. Now, once she does arrive, you have Chris watching her. But like Chris said earlier, Elektra is a trained assassin. She will be able to realize that somebody is watching her in a matter of seconds. And so for Chris, unfortunately, she was able to realize that he was there just like that. Now, Elektra does not go after Chris. Instead, she continues on. And when she does meet up with Catametus. Now, we do learn what this contract is all about. And apparently, 10 years ago, Catametus was assaulted back in college by a group of men. And so she wants Elektra to help her get revenge against those men who had did her wrong 10 years ago. And so, as we dive into the second chapter, we actually do pick up with Elektra learning about the 4 men who had assaulted Catametus back in the past 10 years ago. Now, this is not her telling Elektra, like, hey, I want you to kill these guys off. No, she wants Elektra to help get her revenge against those 4 guys. And so, for Elektra, her assignment is to bring the 4 men back over to Catametus so that she can go ahead and get her revenge against those men. Now, something else I do want you to remember is that Elektra is Greek, and that's going to be somewhat important in the last chapter of the book, but you do have Elektra leave to go complete the assignment. Now, after you have Elektra leave the island, she does go back to Athens. And when she does arrive there at the harbor, it is completely surrounded by Interpol agents. Now, Jean believes that he has enough to actually capture Elektra. Well, unfortunately, the man was completely wrong because you do have Elektra being able to get away very easily and get the heck out of there. Like Chris told Jean, Elektra is a well-trained assassin. You can't bring her down so easily. Now for Jean, he believed that he should be able to bring her down because she is a woman, but does not realize that she is one heck of an assassin. Now, after that, you then have Elektra go to Los Angeles. Now, when she does arrive at Los Angeles, you do have Elektra go after the first 4 men who had apparently assaulted Catametus. The first is a guy known as Miller. Now, Miller is a police officer who is a dirty cop. You know, he kind of helps out the sex workers in the area get by without being arrested if they do give him some service as well. Now, you do have Elektra pretend to be a sex worker to get close to him. And once she does, bam, she got him, and now she can bring him over to Catametus. Now, I want to jump back over to Chris because you have Chris at the bar just drinking the night away. But while doing that, he's then confronted by a woman. Now, at first, he believes that this woman must be working for Catametus, but she says, no, I'm actually working for Elektra. I was sent here to make a deal with you. Now, we are not going to learn what that deal is, but we do know that that deal is going to be very important for Chris and Elektra down the road. But now we jump back over to Elektra, where we see her going to Chicago, going after another one of her 4 targets. Now, his name is Ramon. And really, at first, it does seem like Ramon is a nice guy. But while he's trying to look around his apartment and fix some things up, you didn't have Elektra being able to come from behind to knock him out. Bam. Now she has 2 of her 4 targets. Now, for Elektra, she has to make sure that these guys get back over to Catamitas alive, not dead. And so you have Elektra being able to ship the guys over to Catamitas through a cargo ship, it seems, and made sure those 2 men that she already took out will not die while being shipped over the world. But either way, they do arrive, and now for Elektra, she only has 2 more targets left to take care of. And really, for Elektra, the trend continues on when she goes over to a new location. When she goes over to Houston, she finds another one of her targets. She walks up to him, she gives him a handshake, and next thing you know, bam, he's gone just like that. He's knocked out, and now she only has 1 more to go. And really, she goes to Manhattan right after taking out her 3rd target. She goes for her last one. And just like the last 3, she gets close to him and knocks him out as well too. And so just like that, bam, 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 all 4 targets were easily taken out and all delivered back to Catamitas. So now she's able to get her revenge against these men. Now, at the end of the 2nd chapter, you do have Elektra go back over to Catamitas to get her money because she was able to accomplish the goal. She was able to bring all 4 men back over to Catamitas. And of course, she does get paid $4 million, 1 for each of the 4 guys that she had brought over. But for Catamitas, Elektra is not done yet. She still wants Elektra's help for something else. You see, for the 4 men who had assaulted Catamitas 10 years ago, she wants to get revenge against them, but she wants to torture them in the old ancient Greek ways. And so she's kind of hoping that Elektra would actually help out. Now, for Catamitas, she's going to pay Elektra for helping out if she agrees. But at the same time, she kind of feels like Elektra is the best person who's actually suited to do some kind of torturing to the 4 guys who had assaulted Catamitas. But as we get into issue number 9, this is where we get a flashback. By the way, I just realized I've been calling her by the wrong name completely. I want to say it's Catamitas. I could be wrong. Either way, we do get a flashback where she explains to us when she was assaulted by these 4 men. You see, it was their college days. And while being in college, she thought that she'll be okay there. She'll get a good education. She'll pick up with guys who then invited her to a party. Except when she had arrived at that party, unfortunately, she was assaulted. Now, here's the catch. There are 4 guys there. One of them does not go into the room. He sees what happens and just walks right back out. One of them was in the room already, but he was so freaked out what he was seeing, he just turned his head away. The other 2, they continue to assault her. So 2 of the guys did not do anything at all because of, well, being scared of the other 2 guys. But for Catamitas, that's not okay at all. They were there and they should have tried to help her, but they didn't. But now all 4 men must be tortured and killed. Now, for Elektra, she says no right off the bat because to her, it is completely wrong. But also for Elektra, she is an assassin. Your goal is to pay her to take care of people like killing them or possibly kidnapping them. But once you go over to the idea of torturing, to her, it is completely wrong. But also for Elektra, she believes that one of the guys is actually innocent because that one guy who walked in the room, saw what was happening, and then walked out, to her, she's kind of like, he didn't do anything wrong towards you. Now, technically, he could have had helped you and he did not. But again, he didn't assault you at all. Now, for Elektra, she does say no, but you do have Catamitas kind of tell her, if this was you and you were kind of in the same boat, would you ask for help as well? Now, for Chris, we see him meeting up with Jean, and when he does, he informs Jean that he has an informant who knows where Elektra is going to be at next. And for Jean, that is great because his main goal is to bring in Elektra at this moment. And so at first, he does not believe Chris, but again, he's kind of like, listen, if you have somebody out there who knows where she's going to be at next, then I have no choice but to go ahead and trust you and hoping that your source is actually reliable. And so you have Chris and Jean agree to go meet up with this informant to figure out where Elektra is going to be at next. Now, getting back over to Elektra and Catamidas, we do see the two characters, getting ready to torture the four men who were responsible for attacking Catamidas 10 years ago. Now, here is the big catch. You see, Elektra has not said yes yet. She was just sitting there right now observing what is happening. And we also see Catamidas go out of her way to get an ancient Greek mask to put on her face. Now, I don't know which mask this is, and I tried my best to figure out which mask she's actually wearing to kind of know more about the history behind it. But unfortunately, couldn't find anything about it. But you do have Catamidas begin to torture the different men there. Now, she does ask Elektra one more time, are you going to join? Elektra says no again. And she says to Elektra, do not interfere then if you are not going to help out at all. But now we jump back over to Chris and Jean. Now remember, Chris told Jean that he knew somebody who could most likely help him figure out where is Elektra at. And so you have Chris and Jean go to meet up with this person down a dark alley. Now, once they do reach a door, you have Jean walk in first. You have Chris walk in first and Jean stays behind him. But Jean should have probably went in first or really stayed outside, because soon as Jean does enter the building, someone else from behind grabs him and of course they drug him. Now, once he does wake up, he realizes that one, he has been bound to a bed, but two, you have Chris and the mysterious woman that Elektra hired earlier to help out Chris take photos of Jean as a way to blackmail him, but to also say, hey, you need to back off on Elektra. You are not going to come after her at all anymore. Now, the book really does end on I don't want to say a bad note or a good note, but just an okay note. Because, like I said earlier, one of the four guys did not do anything to Catamidas at all. Matter of fact, they walked in, they got scared, and they left. And so, after you have Ramon get tortured for a tad bit, Elektra steps in and says, stop. You may torture the other three guys for what they have done to you, but him? You cannot torture him at all, because technically he did nothing wrong. I mean, yes, he kind of could have helped out, but he walked away. And so he already paid for his crime. And so you have Elektra grab him and they walk away. And that's how the book really ends. And it's kind of, for me personally, Greg Rucka saying, do you feel like Ramon is innocent or is Ramon guilty? Because if he is guilty, it's because he didn't help her out. But if you say he is innocent because he walked away, it's really more, for me, Greg Rucka saying, it's up to you to decide, does Ramon deserve to be punished for not helping her out 10 years ago? But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.